All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about gloves. Now, my original goal for this video was to pick one or two of my favorite pairs and somehow tell you why I thought those were the best for hunting. And I thought I actually use all these gloves laid out in front of you. And there's different circumstances and reasons why I use them in those circumstances. So I thought maybe a more effective or a more beneficial video would be for me to walk through all the gloves I use and why I use them in different circumstances. So first of all, let me start off with a classic. Now, these particular ones are a little bit thicker than I would normally use, but lots of times these will just be called Atlas gloves or rubber dipped gloves, and they're essentially just a fabric glove that 3/4 has been dipped in rubber. And again, these are thicker than I would normally buy. When I was a forestry engineer, we would carry 3 of these per day. And basically every 3 hours, because they would get soaking wet because we worked on the coast, we would just put one pair in the back of our cruising vest, pull out another pair, put it on, and go back to work. These are cheap, they're durable, they dry pretty quick. Obviously, when you can take them home and dry them in a house, you're not going to dry them out in a backcountry hunt. These are great for day hunting. These are great for coastal circumstances. If you're going to be grabbing a lot of brush, if there's going to be Himalayan blackberry or things with thorns, or even any type of stinging nettle or devil's club, and you're going to be going through that kind of stuff, these are fantastic. Probably not ideally suited for a backcountry hunt, but definitely something to put in your arsenal. They're $10 a pair. Who cares? Let's just work from left to right. Up next would just be your standard Mechanix glove. These are probably the best bang for your buck hunting glove. They're $25, leather, dry pretty quick, even in the backcountry, will provide some protection for your hands. If you gotta go up rock faces, they're still thin enough that you can operate your spotting scope. You can't use your phone while you have these ones on, and they're not super warm. So again, awesome one to have in your arsenal. If I'm going on a 10-day goat hunt, I don't expect it to be very cold. I'm not worried about early morning glassing. This is probably the only pair of gloves I'm gonna take, and they might not even come out of my pack, but they're so light and so durable that it's well, why not have them? I'm gonna skip ahead here. This might be my favorite pair of gloves on this table. This is a winter Mechanix glove, and I wish I could remember who sent me the link to go buy these off of Amazon. These are great for driving a quad. These are great for early morning glassing. These are great for all kinds of stuff. Now, they do take a little bit longer to dry out. They still have the leather palm. You still can't use them on a phone, so you do have to take them off and get your hands cold in order to engage with your phone. But super versatile, super cheap. If I was gonna look at all these and tell you to just buy one pair of gloves for a do-it-all solution, I think I would go with the winter Mechanix gloves because they're really a jack of all trades. Gonna back up a little bit. I'm gonna start with these ones and then move to these ones. This is another gem of a glove. These are $15 at MEC here in Canada. I'm sure REI has another similar pair. These are Merino liners with touch sensitive fingertips on the thumb and forefinger. So the nice thing about these is that you can leave them on your hands and still engage with your phone. And we'll get to these 3-in-1 gloves later, but you can wear these liners inside this shell. These dry super fast. They also get wet super fast. They are not very durable. I typically go through one pair of these per season, and either the webbing starts to go here or the fingers will let go and my fingers just start popping through the ends of the fingers. But for $15 a pair, I mean, who cares? And they keep your hands disproportionately warm. Like you would think it is just a thin liner glove. It's not going to keep my hands that warm. Unbelievably warm. Now, we can go up one step from there to this like super thick. This one's not Merino. I don't know what this is. But again, it's got the touch sensitive fingertips and way thicker. So this would be a really nice glass or a really nice glove for glassing. I'm probably not going to wear this hiking because as soon as I grab some stuff with it, it's just going to wet out. It's not going to be crazy durable. If I was going to be doing truck hunting and have my windows open all day and be glassing out of the truck, like in late October archery Alberta mule deer hunt, these would be fantastic to have on your hands because you're not going to need to take them off in order to use your phone, look at your mapping, do any kind of that stuff. And again, like a $15, $20 pair of gloves. Let's move over to these Stone Glaciers. I did not buy these. I got these for free. I would not buy these. I don't recommend owning these, and I'll tell you why. Listen, there's nothing wrong with these gloves, but the difference between this, like, I don't even know what this is, probably a $75 pair of gloves, to this 20 pair of Mechanix gloves, like, there is no difference whatsoever. Maybe these ones are slightly more ergonomic, but I don't think they're more durable. I don't think they're built any better. So it's like, they're pretty, they're name brand. If you want to support your local tribe, go ahead. But I don't think that these Stone Glacier gloves do anything that a pair of Mechanix gloves don't. Let's jump down to here because this is another one of my most frequently used pair of gloves. So this is basically a 2-in-1 or 3-in-1 really, because you have your shell and your liner is, one potential iteration. Then you can take off the shell and just run this fleece liner with almost like a neoprene on the palm. This is one of the best liners I've ever used. I have had these be soaking wet and still keep my hands warm. I've had these gloves for maybe 5 or 6 years now, ever since my first goat film, Maximum Effort, whenever that was. That was the first time I got these gloves. And again, you can use these thin liners in the same shell. So you could bring several liners and as they wet out, just rotate them. Really great for glassing, super durable. Fairly waterproof, let's say water resistant. They're just basically like a Gore-Tex shell. Keep your hands nice and warm while glassing. Like I said, super durable. You can wear them. I wear them all the time with my trekking poles in the winter. I love these. These are the Stormfronts from Sitka, I believe. And then if we move over here, these are the Blizzards from Sitka. So they have an insulated liner. To be honest, I don't recall if these are synthetic or down. Really warm liner mitt. The drawback obviously being a mitt. When you take them out, no finger, you can't shoot a gun, you can't use your phone, you can't adjust or fine tune optics. But what you can do is use the liner from the Stormfronts inside of the Blizzard and kind of accomplish both. And if you're at minus 20 or minus 30, the amount of warmth that will be generated inside of a mitt shell compared to inside of a gloved shell is significant. So this extra shell weighs almost nothing. Lots of times I will leave this at home, bring the Stormfronts, but then bring this for when I'm glassing or sitting down for an hour or two and trying to get some heat back into my fingertips. I like these, but I don't use them a ton, maybe a week or two a year at most. And then let's close out with what I think is the sleeper hit of this whole video. If you go on Amazon and Google Japanese fishing glove or Showa, Showa fishing glove, these are what you're gonna find. So these are a fully rubberized, kind of felt lined glove, 100% completely waterproof, and they're like $40 on Amazon. There is really nothing that the Stormfronts do that the Showas can't do. These are $40. These were well over 100. I don't even know. They might have been $150. I can't even remember. So again, if you were looking for like a budget option, if you went, you could literally buy the Showas, the Merino liners, and a pair of Mechanix for under $100. And you would literally be set for gloves for the year. In any situation, any circumstances, any weather, you wouldn't have to drop $200 on the Blizzard or $100 on these Stone Glacier. And you could mix and match these in different ways. Like if you don't need to worry about deep winter hunts, you could get a pair of these winter Mechanix and a pair of these thin Merinos. And I think for the vast majority of people, that would probably be all the gloves you needed for the year. And you're literally in it for like less than $50. There is a ton of room for innovation in the glove market. A lot of like the really expensive gloves that I see people coming out with are not overly impressive. And I don't think they do anything that like the gloves out on this table aren't capable of doing at an extremely reduced cost. So there's my thoughts and feelings. These are literally all the gloves I own, and I use them all, at different parts of the year for different reasons. I hope that was helpful or informative. I'd love to hear, I bought these ones specifically because somebody saw me wearing Mechanix in a video and was like, you gotta try the insulated ones. So if there's a solution you guys have found that I didn't mention here today, I would love for you to drop it in the comments section below. If you could engage with this content in any way, shape, or form, like, comment, share, subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it. And as always, thank you for tuning in.